According to the U.S. Census Bureau, in 2022, 1 in every 4 children lived in a single-parent household. This is almost 8 times as much as China, 6 times as much as Nigeria, 5 times as India, and 1.5 times as much our neighboring country, Canada. Good afternoon, I'm Nicholas Oxman.
I'm Colin Gale.
I'm Maria Castro.
I'm Brandon Mala.
And I'm Christopher Accord. If you take a look at this map, you'll see that the United States has a single child population percentage of 23%. Compared to the global average of 6.8%, that is almost 4 times the global amount. This leads to the United States population, according to the 2020 Census Bureau, of 19 million single-parent children.
According to the U.S. Census Bureau, single-parent households are defined as households with only one parent present. These households can be caused by a variety of things, such as parents who are widowed, never married, or absent in any capacity.
Our research question is, over the past 25 years, to what extent have single-parent households impacted a child's future and well-being in the United States? This leads us to our argument that single-parent households have had a direct impact on the socioeconomic status, mental health, and education of children. All these factors negatively contribute to a child's well-being and future overall.
Socioeconomic statuses and financial problems can have a major impact on a child's well-being and their future in many distinct ways, including lower success in the academic part of their lives as a consequence of not having enough money to pay for the child's education to be continued. It is also essential for a child to have a good mental health, which can be put at risk when the proper help isn't available to them, mainly because of low and sufficient funds. According to the American Psychological Association, once stated that struggling financially can have a major impact on the person's physical well-being, causing chronic health conditions and diseases. It can also alter their mental health by having them think of money more often throughout the day, which can lead to them having anxiety, stress, and even depression. Along with low socioeconomic statuses, poor health and low academic success can have a major impact on the society. On a research done by Pew Research Center, 40% of on October 2018, 40% of society saw single parents as a bad thing. And when this survey was done 3 years later, on October 2021, this number went from 40 all the way to 47. This can mean that parents, and the reality is that parents can see single parents as a bad thing, making them be looked down upon and making their socioeconomic status low. As we mentioned before, society looks down on single parents. When they're describing them, they use deviant and pathological, which can create a social problem. And when we look down in society, it makes them, on single parents, it makes them seem like they aren't cared for or talked about.
If you take a look at this graph on deep poverty, you'll see that single-parent mothers live in 70% of single-parent mothers live in deep poverty, compared to the average of married couples living at 3%. Compared to the average of 3% of married couples living in deep poverty. Looking at single-parent poverty, it's 7%, and looking at single parents in general, it's 10%. While poverty is prevalent in all families, it is more prevalent in single-parent families, in single families, regardless of the leader of the family. 1/3 of single-parent families aren't able to pay for basic needs such as food and housing, as a result of low socioeconomic situation. By providing single-parent families with financial aid, it can lead to increased socioeconomic status, and in the future, a better status for the child.
As mentioned earlier by Amelie, the economic status can deeply impact the child's mental health and therefore their overall well-being. And their psychological status is vital for their well-being, considering that during childhood and adolescence, those are the most important stages of brain development. And any trauma caused during this period could deeply affect a child's mind for life. According to this quote by an anonymous high school student interviewed by Bella DePaulo, psychologist and author with a PhD from Harvard, society tends to look down upon those children who grew up in single-parent households, which not only can be hurtful for those children, and it also creates a negative public image to them and leads into damage into their confidence, and later on leads them into becoming those set stereotypes.
The attention deficit hyperactivity disorder levels, also known as ADHD, are increasing in single-parent families. As we can see in this graph, 9.1% of children from single-parent families have the disorder, compared to almost half that amount, 4.7% in intact married families. From this graph, we can see that intact married families have a way lower comparison of ADHD compared to all of the other different family structures, which unfortunately produce higher levels of ADHD. A possible solution to the negative mental health impacts caused by single-parent households are mental health resources. By providing counseling, therapy, or any other of the various mental health resources, we can lower the tension and stress caused through single-parent homes, which is an effective way to combat this issue.
Along with socioeconomic status, an important aspect of a child's future and well-being is their education. Nelson Mandela once stated that education is a powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Mandela understood the importance of education more so for children who are at the beginning of their lives and open to the most development. Unfortunately, we have found research that suggests that students from single-parent homes are educationally disadvantaged due to their single-parent status. Here we present an interview from an EDD dissertation from McKendree University, where the interviewees were students from single-parent homes, and they were asked how much time was spent discussing college. 2 of them stated none, while 1 of them stated very little, and 1 even stated that their parents didn't even know what college they attended. This clearly shows a lack of parent involvement within single-parent homes. Research from the National Coalition of Parent Involvement in Education states that no matter the income or background, students with involved parents are more likely to succeed. However, based on these responses, we see that single parents are not invested in their children's educational future.
The environment a child grows up in has a large impact on their educational success. If you take a look at this graph, you see that children in single-parent households have a GPA on average that is lower by 0.35 points. That's the difference between exception and rejection from college. By providing children of single-parent households educational systems that can lead to better grades, better colleges, better careers, and in turn, a better socioeconomic status and down.
Thank you, Christopher. Some solutions to these problems that we are talking about are to help them with the financial aid. We should have these families have support, social support, and even financial support by the government and nonprofit organizations. To help with their mental health, we should have these single-parent household kids have access to a session with a psychologist and even a therapist. To help with their educational access, we should have these kids be having access to a tutor, a counselor, and somebody, a guidance counselor that can guide them through the future that they want and to help them have a good mental health.
Although the solutions proposed by Amelie sound like reasonable fixes to this issue, there are still many limitations that come with them. First is unsustainable costs. As Nicholas mentioned, 25% of children in the United States grow up in a single-parent household, making the cost to support them very high. Financial supporters of these financial aid programs may not be able to sustain these high costs. Second is educational assistance. We proposed a solution that's already seen in high schools across America, but each student is situational and they have different needs that vary from student to student. And third is a negative stigma around mental health. It's still a large issue, and people who need the mental health may be scared to ask for or reach out for help. Even though it's there, they might not feel comfortable asking for the help.
Overall, growing up in a single-parent household can have many different issues that would then later on impact their overall well-being. With the solutions provided by our group, we should be able to limit those problems in order to provide a better future for the children. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Sorry, let me just scribble this down. We'll start on this side and work our way across. Emily, you ready? No. Oh yeah, we'll give you that one. Give one specific way that your thinking changed as a result of Collins' findings.
Well, my perspective changed because before I used to think that the educational part of their lives could not be affected by a child in a single home. But when we looked at Collins' research and all of his paper, we noticed that education can have a big factor, because if a child comes from a single parent that did not get a high education, which is in most cases, then their education will be a very low.
All right. Colin, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem you guys identified?
A combination of Ria and Amelie's perspectives, creating socioeconomic status, gave me an overall change in my thinking, because it showed how social status and money gave way to opening doors for education. For example, the chart in the back about the Pew Research Center talked about the how bad society was looking down on single parents, and this could in turn lead them to not be able to have the same opportunities as those who have better standing in society.
All right, thanks. Nick, or Chris, whatever we're gonna call you.
That's crazy.
Nick, how did the group decide to include, let's go, Chris's perspective into the overall presentation?
Unfortunately, we did not use any sources we have from his paper into the presentation. However, we did tie back to physical health. That was his perspective in one of the slides, but we never used any sources we had for the presentation, as we didn't think it had a good flow with the solutions we had and the limitations we had.
Okay. Next up, what is an example of a compelling argument from one of your peers' individual reports that you decided to exclude? Well, we kind of did that one already, so we're going to skip that because that's what he just answered. Sorry. If you had another team member, what perspective or limitation could they have reached that would have made a useful contribution to the project?
If we had another team member, we could have given them the sixth perspective of employment, and because we've done research after education that shows that students with higher education levels that are usually from dual parent households are getting these higher paid, higher education jobs, and that leaves the single parent household, people from those households, a little bit lower.
All right, and save the best for last. Describe an argument from one of your peers' reports that makes you think differently about your team's solution.
Something that had a large impact on that made me view my team solution differently, I would say, is Collins. Education has a large impact on a child's growth growing up. It ranges from economic to mental health. If you have bad, you could have bad grades from poor mental health, etc. They're all correlated, and it made me realize that they all intermingle in some form of way.
You guys are done.